I've always been a man who notices details. It's not paranoia, it's instinct, trained over years of military service. As a former military police officer, I learned to see what others overlook. The slight bulge of a hidden weapon, the flicker of guilt in someone's eyes, the small inconsistencies in a story told twice. I carried those skills with me when I left the service and started my private security consulting business. It wasn't just a job for me, it was a way of life. I built a career on noticing the things that others didn't. Maybe that's why I never saw it coming. Maybe it's because I was so focused on scanning the horizon for threats that I missed the one closest to me, the betrayal from my own wife. Evelyn and I met 13 years ago, married 11. She was everything I admired, ambitious, sharp, focused. A marketing coordinator at Grandstone Real Estate Development, always climbing higher, always looking ahead. I admired that drive. It matched my own. We were equals, partners in life, sharing a vision of the future. No children. Our choice. We wanted to build something stable first, focus on our careers before we thought about starting a family. I often wonder if that was the first sign. If having children would have grounded her in ways ambition never could. But that's hindsight for you, always a twisted form of torture. The truth is, I was too busy chasing my own goals to notice the cracks forming in our foundation. 5 years ago, we bought our house. A modest 2-story in a quiet suburb. Not extravagant, but perfect for us. Good school district, low crime, decent neighbors. I paid for most of it with my military benefits and put it mostly in my name. Evelyn didn't mind. She was focused on her career. When I make senior coordinator, she'd say, then we'll upgrade. Always looking ahead. That's how Evelyn was. Always seeing what could be instead of what was. The security system was my one indulgence. Top-of-the-line surveillance, cameras in every room, motion sensors, cloud backup, everything I could get my hands on. In our one-party consent state, it was perfectly legal. Evelyn used to tease me about it. My overprotective soldier, she'd call me, rolling her eyes but always smiling. She understood why I needed control. She knew what I had seen in my time overseas, the things I'd been through. She accepted my need for vigilance, or so I thought. 2 weeks before everything fell apart, Evelyn seemed distracted during dinner. She was picking at her food, hardly looking up. Mentioned offhandedly that her new boss, Maxwell Sinclair, had big plans for the department. He was restructuring everything and she might finally get that senior coordinator position. That's great, I said, genuinely happy for her. You've earned it. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I should have noticed that. Should have seen the subtle shift in her body language, the way she avoided my gaze. All the signs were there. Little red flags I would have caught immediately in anyone else. But this was Evelyn, my wife, the one person I trusted without question. The following Thursday, I was in my home office reviewing security footage for a client. Routine work, nothing urgent. I'd just finished a call with one of my clients when Evelyn texted me, saying she'd be home late. Another meeting with Maxwell Sinclair. No problem. Love you, I texted back, but she didn't respond. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Not yet. The sound of the front door unlocking pulled me out of my work. I glanced at my watch, 8:17 p.m., a bit earlier than I expected. I closed my laptop, thinking I'd make her some tea, maybe ask about her day. I thought it was Evelyn coming home early, but I was wrong. He walked in like he owned the place, tall, mid-50s. A man dressed in an Italian suit that probably cost more than my entire monthly mortgage payment. His nails were manicured. His watch was a gaudy display of wealth, and he exuded that unmistakable aura of entitlement that comes with power and money. He didn't knock, didn't call out. Just walked right in, sat on my couch, and crossed his legs as if he'd been invited. The second he stepped through that door, my training kicked in. My hand instinctively moved under the desk to where I kept the Glock 19. Just a precaution. I kept my voice controlled, even though the anger was rising inside of me. Can I help you? I asked, my tone even. Damian Hayes, he stated, not a question, but an assertion. He knew exactly who I was. I'm Maxwell Sinclair, Evelyn's boss, he added, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The name hit me immediately. The man who'd been keeping her late at the office. The one with all the big plans for her future. He was sitting in my living room uninvited, and all the alarms in my head went off. How did you get in my house? I asked, my voice calm, but now my finger rested near the trigger guard of the Glock. I wasn't reckless, but I wasn't unprepared either. Sinclair's smile was thin, almost predatory. "Your wife gave me a key," he said smoothly. 5 words. 5 simple words that shattered the foundation of everything I believed about my marriage. Evelyn had given this man, a stranger, someone I didn't even know, access to our home without telling me. It was so outrageous I couldn't immediately process it. But Sinclair didn't wait for me to catch up. He launched straight into what he called a man-to-man conversation, his voice casual like he was discussing a business deal. "Here's the situation, Damien," he began. "I want to try your wife tonight in your bed, and you're going to be reasonable about it." I stared at him, convinced that I'd misheard. This couldn't be happening, I thought. This wasn't real, but it was. Sinclair sat there explaining the arrangement as if it were some sort of business transaction. Evelyn would get the promotion, the career advancement, the life she deserved. All I had to do was step aside and be cooperative. He told me that Evelyn had already accepted the deal. "She understands how this works," he said, examining his nails unbothered. "How success happens. She's being smart about it." Everything inside me froze. I could feel my pulse in my throat, my hands steady despite the rage building within me. "Get out of my house," I ordered, my voice cold, MP trained. I wasn't about to back down. Sinclair laughed. Actually laughed. And then he began to make threats. "I've got connections," he said. "Judges, politicians, people in power. I could make you disappear. I could make sure your life falls apart while Evelyn moves on with hers." I was still processing his words, still trying to wrap my head around what was happening, but I could feel something shifting within me. A quiet determination. "How do you think it works for people like Evelyn?" Sinclair continued, leaning in with a sneer. "You think hard work, dedication, and talent are enough? Those are just the entry fee. The real currency is compliance, adaptation. Willingness to make arrangements." I asked him clarifying questions, getting him to repeat everything. I needed to be sure, needed it all on record. My security cameras were recording everything. Every word, every threat, every admission. All of it was being backed up to the cloud. As Sinclair spoke, my shock transformed into something colder, more focused. This wasn't just about him. This was about Evelyn, my wife. She had betrayed me, conspired with him, given him access to our home. "Are you listening to me, Hayes?" Sinclair demanded, standing up and moving closer, his demeanor shifting from arrogance to aggression. I made my decision then. Without hesitation, I brought the gun up from beneath the desk, aiming at center mass. No uncertainty, no second thoughts. Sinclair froze mid-step, his eyes widening. "You have exactly 30 seconds to leave my house," I said, my voice as calm as ever. "Every word you've said is being recorded. Every threat, every admission. It's all backed up to servers you can't touch." His face transformed, shock to fury in an instant. He lunged at me, throwing a sloppy kick aimed at my head. Old instincts took over. I shifted back, absorbing his momentum, and fired 3 shots, center mass. Textbook defensive shooting. Sinclair collapsed, blood spreading across the suit I had no doubt cost more than my mortgage. His eyes went wide with disbelief and then vacant. The silence that followed felt endless. For a few seconds I just stood there, my gun aimed at the man who had tried to destroy my life. It was as if time had frozen, his blood spreading across the expensive suit, staining the carpet I had so carefully chosen for this room. The weight of it all pressed down on me, but I remained steady. This was survival, pure and simple. I placed the gun carefully back on the desk, wiped my hands on my pants, and took out my phone. 3 calls. First 911. "I need to report a shooting," I said calmly. "Home invasion. The intruder is down. I'm the homeowner." The dispatcher was quick, professional. I could hear the urgency in their voice, but I remained calm. I didn't need to panic. The situation was under control. Next, I called my lawyer, Andrew Caldwell. "Andrew, it's Damien Cross," I said. "There's been an incident at my house. I need you here immediately." Andrew didn't ask questions. He knew better than to do that. We'd worked together before, and he understood that I didn't make calls like this unless it was serious. The third call was the hardest one. It was to Evelyn. Her name appeared on the screen, but I hesitated. I was angry, hurt, confused. I almost pressed the call button, but something stopped me. Something colder, more certain I didn't need to talk to her. Not yet. Not until I understood what had happened. I set the phone down and waited for the police. I waited for Evelyn. I waited for whatever came next. When the officers arrived, they moved quickly, securing the scene. Their professionalism was a comfort, but it didn't erase the reality of what had just happened. Sinclair was dead, and Evelyn, my wife, was inextricably linked to this chaos. The hours that followed blurred together. The police collected evidence. My lawyer stood by my side, offering quiet reassurance. But nothing felt real. It was like I was watching someone else's life unravel, someone else's nightmare. When Detective Harrison Ward arrived, I knew we were in good hands. I'd worked with him before during my MP days, and we respected each other's methods. He took control of the scene with quiet authority, reviewing the security footage I had recorded. The moment the video ended, he whistled low, his expression impressed. "Open and shut self-defense," he said. "You articulated the threat. You gave commands. You only fired when attacked. This is textbook." I nodded, still numb, as the investigation moved forward. The body cam footage from the officers on the scene showed me calm and cooperative. The gun secured, my hands visible. I had done everything right. The system was working as it should. I was the victim here, and yet there was no real sense of relief. I sat at the dining room table waiting. The house felt like a prison. The blood was still there in my mind, though the officers cleaned the crime scene quickly. I couldn't escape the feeling that everything had changed, that I would never feel safe again. Then the headlights of a car swept across the living room windows. Car door slammed. I knew it was Evelyn before I even saw her. I watched through the front window as she parked the car in the driveway. She frowned when she saw the police cars, and I watched her confusion morph into dread as she walked up to the front door. When she walked inside and saw the scene, saw the body bag being zipped, the bloodstains being cleaned, the officers working, I saw her face go white. She froze. "Damien, what? Oh my God, is that?" She stammered, voice trembling. "Maxwell Sinclair," I said evenly. "Your boss. The man you gave a key to." Her eyes widened as understanding dawned. The shock wasn't at finding a dead body in her living room. The shock was realizing that the plan had failed, that Sinclair hadn't managed to threaten me into compliance, that her betrayal had been exposed. She started crying, moving toward me with outstretched hands. "Damien, you don't understand. It wasn't what you think," she pleaded, voice breaking. But I didn't want to hear her excuses, not now, not after everything she'd done. Detective Ward stepped forward, his voice professional but firm. "Mrs. Cross, I need to ask you some questions. Did you know Maxwell Sinclair was coming to your home tonight?" "No," she answered, shaking her head. "He said he wanted to talk to Damien, but—" "Did you provide Mr. Sinclair with a key to this residence?" Ward pressed. She hesitated, then lowered her head. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "Did Mr. Sinclair tell you the purpose of his visit?" Ward asked. "He said he just wanted to talk," she murmured, looking desperately at me. "Damien, please." I could feel my anger stirring again, but I remained calm. "There's video, Evelyn. Everything he said. Your involvement." Her face drained of color as she looked at me, the reality of her actions settling in. She swayed slightly, grabbing the back of a chair for support. "I need a lawyer," she whispered. The next few hours felt like an eternity. The police continued their work, gathering evidence, taking statements. Evelyn was questioned separately and her phone was seized. The text messages with Sinclair were damning, proof of her complicity in everything that had transpired. I didn't want to hear the details. I already knew enough. Andrew Caldwell, my lawyer, explained the situation to me in blunt terms. "You acted within your rights, Damien," he said. "The DA's office cleared you of any wrongdoing. This is self-defense. The case against Sinclair is open and shut. But Evelyn's case? That was another story. She's in serious trouble," Andrew continued. "Accessory to attempted sexual coercion, conspiracy to commit blackmail, providing false information to police. The evidence is overwhelming." The words hit me like a slap. Evelyn, my wife, was being charged with conspiracy. She had been in on it, fully aware of what Sinclair was planning. How had I missed all of it? How had I failed to see the woman I married transform into someone willing to betray me, to risk everything for career advancement? I felt a cold detachment as I processed the news. The anger had faded, replaced by something more clinical, like I was watching the fall of someone I no longer recognized. By the time the police cleared out and left me alone in the house, it was well past midnight. The body had been removed, the scene cleaned up. The evidence was gone, but the weight of what had happened still hung heavy in the air. I sat in the living room staring at the spot where Sinclair had fallen. I had survived. That was the only thing that mattered now. The next morning, the media arrived. Reporters from local news outlets showed up at my door, cameras in tow, microphones thrust in my face. They wanted to sensationalize the story, the betrayal, the shooting, the drama. My private nightmare had become their public spectacle. My security system, the very thing that had protected me, now became an unwelcome witness. The cameras captured everything. The reporters tramping across my lawn, the news vans blocking my driveway, the flashing lights of police vehicles. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't escape the story that was now bigger than my life. I didn't leave the house for a week. I had meetings with my lawyer, more interviews with detectives, but I didn't step outside. The thought of facing those cameras, answering their questions, made me sick. I knew I was in the clear legally, but that didn't make the violation any less real. Evelyn's situation worsened as the investigation unfolded. They found more evidence, emails, messages, even a few recorded conversations, that showed she had been in contact with Sinclair long before the night he came to my house. She had been having an emotional affair with him for months. He'd groomed her, promised her the world, career advancement, status, power. And she had believed him. I had been blind. I had trusted her, and she had betrayed me. I spent the next few days processing everything, meeting with my lawyer, talking to the police, piecing together the fragments of my shattered life. But the truth was, I didn't feel any satisfaction in the resolution. I didn't feel like a victor. I didn't feel like anything. Evelyn's plea deal came down the following week. 2 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, no prison time but a permanent criminal record. She had sacrificed everything for the promotion she thought she deserved, and now she would pay the price. I filed for divorce shortly after. It was a clean break. She didn't deserve anything from me. The house was mine. I had paid for it with my military benefits. The joint accounts would be split, but her legal fees would consume most of her share. I couldn't bring myself to care about that. Not anymore. Evelyn asked to see me one last time before her plea hearing. My lawyer advised against it. But I agreed. I needed closure. I needed to understand if the woman I had married was ever real, or if she had always been this stranger. We met in a sterile, cold conference room at the courthouse. 2 lawyers present, recording devices running, no private moments allowed. I could see the difference in Evelyn. She looked thinner, older, worn down, dark circles under her eyes. The Evelyn I knew had spent hours every morning getting ready, her appearance always pristine. But this woman? She had surrendered all of that. "I know you won't believe this," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. But he manipulated me. I didn't speak. I just stared at her, waiting for the truth to come out. "Did you give him a key to our home?" I asked, my voice steady, devoid of emotion. She flinched. "Yes," she admitted quietly. "Did you know he was coming to threaten me?" I pressed. "No," she protested weakly. "He said he just wanted to talk." "What did you think he was going to say when he came to our home uninvited?" I asked, my voice colder than I intended. She had no answer. Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no anger. Just a hollow emptiness. Thank you for listening. If you believe in second chances and the strength to rise above betrayal, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every click helps us bring more real stories to life. Stay tuned for the next chapter.